Excellent. By the way, P.S. Crazy that we ran into each other the other night.
Yes. That is pretty funny, actually. Like, really
Yeah,
funny.
I'm going to include this in the episode. I'm not going to edit it out. But we had a funny circumstance where Sheldon and I ran into each other at, well, it's not a 24-hour diner. It used to be a 24-hour diner at like 2 a.m. over the weekends. Classic Toronto business.
Random night out in Toronto. End up at the, as you said, late night food spot. Walk in, boom, who's sitting there?
Bam. Just loving life. Having an apple pie.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Let's introduce ourselves. My name is John Shidley Hill.
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge, talking about War of the Worlds. We start off with everyone sort of just absorbing the news that now they're individuals, that they're no longer in partnerships. And I loved how everyone's like, I am so psyched, I am so pumped, I am so ready for this. And George is like, I don't really have a plan. I was really counting on this UK alliance business.
Yeah.
I should probably look into that. And I admire her honesty.
Yeah, it was super interesting just because, like, Georgia, as we're seeing, I keep going back and forth in terms of what is strategy here? What is, like, her game plan? Is she just here for the TV show? Is she here? You know what I mean? Like, is she just trying to play dumb for camera time? Is a lot of this calculated? You know, I keep going back and forth. But she's funny.
Yeah, I like her. Like, I think she's a nice person. And she posted on Twitter last week about how, like, it was an eye-opening experience watching it back because she realizes how easily she's misled. This was in response to Hunter's quote-unquote acting job. But also, like, Bear also pulled the wool over her eyes. Like, I think she's a very sweet person, and I think, it's been an eye-opening experience for her. And like, I feel bad. Like, it's sad to see innocence lost. You know what I mean? Like, the world should be kind to people like Georgia, but it is not. Especially not in the challenge. Like, talk about entering a Shark Tank.
When you spend so much time with Bear, it's kind of hard for the world to be on your side. You kind of made interesting decisions, let's say, right? Oh, man, Bear.
So then the next morning, we have Paulie and Turbo talking strategy over breakfast. Turbo naturally wearing his sunglasses as he eats breakfast. I'm sure that's what you do as well. It's a very common, normal thing to do.
I'm wearing sunglasses right now.
I'm wearing 2 pairs of sunglasses because my future's so bright.
Hey, I see what
Thank you. So, man, I am corny as fuck. It's amazing that Marie likes this podcast.
I was just going to let it slide.
Thank you. That's good. I love how supportive we are of each other. It's just a lot of positivity. Even listeners might not believe this, but even off air, it's just a lot of positive reinforcement of each other. A lot of enabling of bad habits.
I think it's the industry working.
Yeah.
I think it's the industry working. We have no choice but to be supportive because it's such a fucking industry.
Yeah, probably. Probably. So, Paulie and Turbo forge an alliance. And obviously...
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
What do you think? What do you make of this alliance? This Paulie and Turbo thing? Like, was this something that was happening before, or is this kind of brand new? Because I didn't really notice it.
I think Turbo's on, like, decent terms with most people. Like, there's a moment that comes up later where Maddie has, like, the most, like, sincere interaction that I think I've ever seen on the challenge, where she's just like, hey, Turbo, are you ready for this? Like, it's just a very nice... I think that Turbo's very much keeps to himself, and I bet he's, like, very neat and organized and everything. And I think that, like, he doesn't piss people off, you know what I mean? Like, I think that you don't necessarily chat him up, but that he's just a, like, fine guy, as long as you don't, like, break his code of honor. That said, I could imagine this blowing up in Polly's face. Like, I think that, like... How can I put this? I think that Turbo probably takes an agreement like this significantly more seriously than Polly does. Like, I think that, like, if Polly, for whatever reason, how the gameplay pans out, ends up not necessarily stabbing Turbo in the back, but maybe in Turbo's mind choosing someone over Turbo. Like, obviously, I think it's obvious that if Polly has to choose between Kara and Turbo, he's choosing Kara. And I could see Turbo taking, like, this very seriously and be like, well, we swore an oath. And in my culture, that makes me like lion and you like bear, and we must wrestle now. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I could see it being very serious consequences if you break this alliance.
To be honest, for me, what I think is that Polly is a good competitor, don't get me wrong. But Polly, and add in the Kara factor, add in the Big Brother factor. But I think Polly also has that gameplay side. So as you mentioned that he's more likely to turn on Turbo, I totally agree, because Turbo so far is just so solely focused on like the actual challenges that like the politicking side of everything isn't really there. And as we're going to get to what happens later on in this episode, I feel like when Polly getting mad at Kyle, I feel like a lot of that is for show. Whereas I felt when Turbo was getting mad with Hunter, that was real. We'll get to that later on. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the emotional side of it, which is so much a part of this game, right? I don't know if Turbo is used to that side of it yet. And Polly, definitely, I agree with you, would be more likely to turn against him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would. I think it'll blow up, for sure. Kyle is worried now that he doesn't have Maddie to protect him.
I like that he's honest.
Yeah.
No? I love that he was honest about that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I really like Kyle. Like, I know the Kara stands out there are still mad at him. And, like, I think that he's a fuckboy. Like, I think he loves them, then leaves them. But I also think that, like, he's charming and he's funny and, like, doesn't take himself too seriously and is a sneaky good competitor. Like, I know he's not jacked, but, like, he's not in bad shape. Like, he's probably got less than 10% body fat. You know what I mean? And
yeah, I mean, Kyle, though, as I think he gets pointed out later on, he is a good politician, right? Like, even think how much of what you just said, how different it is this season, more so maybe because he's on the side of the house that you might be rooting for more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But you kind of like Kyle a bit more, right? Just because he's come off as a nicer guy this season. Now, is he actually a nicer guy this season? I don't know, maybe. Like, he's a little bit more low-key. Does that have to do with more of who the girls are in the house? I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like the politicking of Kyle has been very interesting so far.
Oh, absolutely. But he's... and they touch on this later in Tribunal. But, like, part of his strategy is to have people underestimate him. And that's not a bad strategy.
Exactly.
It's timeless.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a brief conversation between Bear and Theo that want Wes and Hunter gone. And it's worth noting that at this point, most people want Wes gone. Like, he does, aside from Hunter, he does not have a lot of allies in that house. And I guess he gets along with Kyle, but Kyle also says he doesn't trust Wes. Yeah. So then we have the...
Yeah. Which is, I mean, he's right for that, no?
I know, but, like, how much can you trust anyone? Like, in all seriousness, the only, like, unbreakable bond in this house is Polly and Kara. And it's worth noting that at this point, in real life, Polly was lying through his teeth to Kara. And I don't want to be super cynical, but, like, that's just sort of the name of the game. Like, at the end of the day, only one person can win.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. No, I agree with that. I agree with that. As often what happens on this challenge, you make good points, and it makes me think. And I might have changed my mind on that.
Okay, all right. So we have our competition, our first individual challenge. It's Fandemonium, because the puns continue.
Dun, dun, dun. Sorry to interrupt, but one of the funniest puns I've seen recently, and it just stuck in my head, and because we both work in sports journalism, I know there's a lot of sports references that we make, but Magic Johnson abruptly stepped down from being president of the Lakers, and on ESPN, for those who don't know, the owner of the Lakers is Jeannie Buss from the Buss family, and the key or the headline on ESPN read Magic Fool Bus. I might have laughed a little too hard at that. Like, it's not that good or that funny, but it made me laugh in the moment. Sorry to interrupt. We'll get back to the puns of Fandemonium.
I just like it because I think, like, Magic School, like, I don't think that's the most obvious pun. Right?
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen another one bites the bus, but thank you. Just freestyling. So
it's better than we don't believe in magic.
Oh, that's way better. Yeah. No, I mean, like,
average at best.
I agree. I'm with you. So the Fandemonium, back on topic.
Sorry.
It's fine. I love when we go off topic. And we actually had a listener, I'm very sorry, I can't remember who it was that tweeted at us. But they said that they love when we talk about Canada because they learn about Canada. So, you know, that could be happening too.
Fair enough.
That could be happening too. So in Fandemonium, they essentially have to walk down like a paintball hallway. Like, have you ever played paintball?
I have. Yes.
It really reminded me of a paintball arena.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that's
and
cool.
They had 3 Hurricane fans blasting at 150 miles an hour down this hallway, and they had to carry balls. I guess they were like repainted exercise balls.
Yeah, that's essentially what it
down the hallway, and whoever got the most down the hallway, and notably into a container, won. Mm-hmm. And I guess if there's a tie, it comes down to. Well, no, it was timed across the board. Like, they all had 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So your girl Georgia goes first and gets nowhere. And I'm just pointing this out because Bear's commentary was, like, at first funny and then gross. Where he's like, he says something. I reckon she could do 10. There was only 10 balls. She's strong, incredible lungs.
Oh,
yeah, and then he made another comment. He did say that he was going to give her. He told, I think, Maddie that he's going to give Georgia special cuddles afterwards.
Yes. Yeah, special cuddles tonight is what he kept saying.
Oh, Bear.
I mean, the Bear antic, the Bear shtick. I mean. I don't want to say that it would get annoying because it's a lot. It's consistently a lot, and you get used to it at times. But, like, yeah. He definitely laid it on a little thick in this episode. Same thing I would say goes for Georgia for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like they are the reality or UK MTV royal couple or something like that. I don't know. But it's just very odd. Very
you know
weird.
what it's like? It's like they're the British Cara and Polly.
Ah, interesting.
So then Hunter does pretty well. He gets 6. And then your man Turbo goes hard. He goes hard. He wants it bad.
Yeah, Turbo's a weirdo. Like, he trips me out. He really does.
He is... I want to see a psychological profile of Turbo because there's a lot going on under the surface. Turbo goes so hard. He has, like, how would you describe it, as like an asthma attack? He's gassed out.
Yeah.
They're trying to give him oxygen. Yeah. There's medics by his side trying to hook oxygen up, and he's begging them to tell him how many balls did he put away? Was it 7? Was it 8? And I like the producer at one point goes, buddy, just focus on the task at hand, breathing.
The producer actually says, this is way more important,
bro. That's what it was. This is way more important, bro. And, like, the producers must be, like, fascinated and horrified by...
Oh, can I tell you something? The first thing I thought is, oh my gosh, I'd be so terrified if I was one of the producers. And then I was thinking, I wonder what the order was and when Turbo was going, because if that happens early on and I'm a producer of the show, I'm going to be like, wait a second, do we continue with this? Like, if Turbo's one of the strongest competitors, how on earth do we let someone else try to do this if Turbo, one of the strongest dudes, was almost TKO'd by this? I would have been terrified producing that.
But here's what I loved. I mean, you're making a good point, and I hear you. But here's what I love. For all that drama, for that near-death experience, he only gets 7. He only got 1 more than Hunter, and notably, lots of people got 7.
So, okay, a couple things here, right? First off, shouts to Kyle, who says, why do these Hurricane fans even exist? I would actually like to know the reasoning why a Hurricane fan does exist. Like, I would really love to know that. But
I imagine it's so that they...
And the question of where did TJ get these from? Also a good question.
I imagine that they're specifically for this purpose, like for creating hurricanes for, like, movies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
That's what I assumed was, or like for... Yeah, like I assume that, like, whenever you need to create a scene like this.
I mean, it's just super weird, but the way that Kyle phrased it and then followed it up with, and where did TJ get this from? That actually just made me laugh. But was there a strategy to this? Because as I was watching it, I was thinking, okay, do you try to stay low? No, because you need the power of your legs to get through. Do you, like, go off to the side? Like, is that a thing? Like, I found it just so weird on so many levels. And, yeah, my biggest question, which, I don't know, I guess maybe Twitter would tell us somehow, or someone in the comments, but after you see Turbo go down like that, what the hell? But also, did we get to the part yet where Turbo is finally okay and he says to the medic, he's like, thank you, sister? Yes. He's like, thank you, sister. When I win, we'll go out. Yo, this guy is incredible.
He is breakout character of the season for sure.
Like, I don't know if I fully, like, am on board and, like, rooting for Turbo, but he's definitely interesting and makes me laugh each episode for sure. Or just makes me be like, yo, whose man's is this? Yeah. But either way, I feel something.
I'm not cheering for him. Like, I'm not rooting for him, but I'm not rooting against him. Like, he's such a force of nature. It's
I like that.
It's like watching a football game that's in the rain and cheering for the rain. You know, like, I'm neither for nor against the rain, but, like, it's adding to the quality of competition.
Yo, that is a great analogy.
Thank you.
Right there. Well played.
Thank you.
I like that one.
I appreciate that.
I really like that one.
I had a technical question for you, though, because obviously the nature of that hallway is that it's sealed, right? Well, not fully sealed, but that, like, it's got hard sides because they're shipping containers or whatever. The cast they're commenting on how people are doing, though, they must have been watching on monitors, right?
I guess so. Or I think one of the sides, they could see one of the sides because they were commenting on when someone got to the other side, right?
Yeah.
So depending on where they were standing, it looks like they were standing, like, where they could see when someone was finished, or either they're at the starting line because they could see when someone was coming back.
Yeah. Another important production note is that, like, before it's her turn to go, probably when they're administering CPR to Turbo, Kara has a little face-to-face with the camera and says that, she's ready to prove herself, and then she, spreads her arms. It's only then that I realize that their rain jackets that they're wearing have, bat wings, which would make this so much harder.
I didn't understand that. That's so odd. And I know it adds another level, makes it a little more difficult, but it's still wow, okay. They really went all out. I really wonder how difficult this was, because, Davon makes a great comment. She's like, I know you're watching at home thinking I could do this. And she's like, no, the fuck you cannot. Yeah. Which I thought was funny. But I actually do wonder, could I do this? Or even at, my athletic peak. You know what I mean? How well would I do in this? Because it did look hard.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't know.
I think that the strategy... I never actually answered your question about the strategy. I think...
It's okay. I was going to let it slide, man. I was going to let it slide.
Speaking of letting it slide, they had a soap or something that they were spraying. Mm-hmm. There was water, and it looked like they had some suds, I guess. And yep. I really think that it was that you actually don't want to go down the sides. Because all the soap, I think it was more slippery at the sides.
So you want to stay in the middle, have better grip.
Okay. And I think that given that there's the you've got those bat wings happening on your little coat there, I think the move isn't necessarily to get low, but to obviously have the ball straight in front of you and pin your elbows to your side, so you're sort of negating the bat wings. And if anything, use the ball to have the air go around you, because a sphere is actually pretty aerodynamic, right?
Yeah.
So it would do a better job of having the wind go around you than your body would.
My other question that I wondered was, how much of a disadvantage was it to go later on? Because was it more soapy? Was it more wet, meaning the traction was a lot more difficult the later on that you went?
I also wonder if after Turbo's little cardiac event, if they geared the fan down a little.
That's an interesting point. And I think, again, if I was producing that, I would have been terrified at that moment happening. So I could see that as a possibility for sure, where you're just scared and you have to think about the fact of, oh, can we actually do this? Are we sure this is safe? How is someone that's smaller than Turbo going to react? Definitely would be on the table. But you were right in terms of most people getting around 7.
Yeah,
right?
Most people were in the 6 or 7 ballpark.
One question I want to get to before we get to the bear stuff is the rookie season of Maddie. Who was it that brought that up? Was it Wes? So obviously Wes has seen a lot, right? He's probably one of the most senior people still left in the house.
He would be.
And so for him to bring this up, he says Maddie is definitely the rookie of the year. She got it all. She's, all the other girls are probably terrified of her. Maddie is the rookie of the year. I feel like we would agree with that, but he says she's probably had the best rookie season. Do we agree with that statement?
She's certainly a contender. In his way, as much as I dislike him, Bear has won a lot of competitions, a lot of eliminations.
Yeah.
And he certainly had a bigger impact.
So, because immediately I thought of just recent examples of Tori had a really good rookie season.
Yeah, Tori I think was better. Kyle had a great rookie season.
For sure. They both made it to the final, right? And Killa Cam, no? Was it Killa Cam's rookie season where she was just dominating people in eliminations? Yeah. So it was interesting. And I feel like Maddie, it's more so the reputation that she's built so far in terms of people being afraid of her and maybe what she can do or people not wanting to go against her. Whereas I was keeping it to girls, right? Or to the women, but Tori, you might not really be afraid of going against, but then you lose.
Yeah.
Same maybe with Cam, right? Maddie, it's like you don't even want to test her,
No.
right? She's almost like that Laurel type build, which we talked about early on in this season, right?
Yep.
We did bring that up earlier. That is the matchup we're looking for. We should tweet at Laurel and ask her if she thinks she could take on Maddie, actually. We should do that.
Laurel follows me on Twitter, so she might reply.
Why, hello, Maddie. How are
Hi.
you? And I love Wes's breakdown, too, like, of her total game. It was like, what did he say? Like, she fucks, she negotiates, and she wins? Was that it?
I thought it was...
There's like 3 things Wes brought
Yeah,
up.
it was definitely fucks was the first, and negotiates was the last. I forget what the middle one was.
Fucking Wes. Wes is the best. But anyways, yeah, Maddie, I think, is a great addition, and I don't know what Party Down South is. Do you know what Party Down South is?
No, I don't. And, like, that's what I love. Like, she's coming from some, like, in terms of sports, she's coming from some, like, backwater, like, rookie league that, like, she's coming out of the Dominican League, however you want to put it.
Yes.
Right?
That would be like the G League for sure. Right?
Yeah, but
Something
like
like
more
that.
obscure. Like it's like coming out of the Drew League to make the NBA.
Yes. Fair enough. But I guess the bear stuff was probably the funniest shit to come out of this.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh my god. I was laughing so hard.
Did you notice it right
Yes.
away? Okay, so because when they put up the numbers, I thought they put up the number 6, and that's what I wrote down.
Oh.
Right? I wrote down, I'm like, oh, Bear had 6 balls. But then I heard him say 8, and initially I'm like, oh, maybe I just read the key wrong.
Nope.
Right? Like maybe that was...
Every time he would like throw it down, they would have it like flip over to back to 0.
Oh, see, I wasn't paying attention like
Yeah.
that. See, that's what happens when I mess that up.
It was
completely.
a bit of a visual gag. So
because what I was doing was I was just like, I'm listening and I'm watching, but I'm not paying attention to the keys. I only paid attention to the last key. I got you.
what I loved so much was Bear had been talking mad shit, right? Like he said, I'm going to get all 10. I'm the best. Like typical Bear shit. And like, for once, he was right. If he had actually listened to the instructions and like paid attention, he would have,
Like me.
yeah, he would have had the most.
Yeah.
But he's so up his own ass that he actually did not get 7 or 8. He got 6. And just like...
And he was saying he was going to get 10. He was talking so much shit.
Yeah.
Like, so much shit. It was crazy. He's like, I got it all. I got skills, looks, power. Like, he was talking so much shit. And then to make it even worse, like, the way that it all played out, too. Like, he came back. He's feeling himself. He's thinking he's the man. Everyone, I guess, knows what numbers they have. So he's putting himself in first place.
Yeah, and they
right? Like, that's how he feels.
And they all think that he had 8 as well because they're just... I don't know if it didn't register with them or they couldn't see the monitors or what. But, like, they all certainly thought that he had won. Certainly Georgia had.
Yes. Oh, yes. Definitely Georgia had. I mean, obviously, you know, as this episode plays out, Bear played himself, right? Is it DJ Khaled? That's DJ Khaled. You played yourself, right? That's his thing. But like, I don't know, man. It was so over the top, like so completely ridiculous.
I loved it so much.
And did he think the part that makes even less sense to me now is when the balls obviously roll all the way back, right to the very beginning, because I always was going off the thing too that it's edited, so we're not seeing them put all of the balls in, right? Like we would see them skip ahead to certain points. So I assume that when they showed the balls that rolled back, I thought that maybe at a certain point, like I wasn't paying attention, and so he took those balls and he wasn't counting those ones. Like he in his head was counting other ones that didn't blow all the way back to the beginning. Because that's kind of like really, really dumb for you to think that those ones would count, no?
Yeah.
Like, what?
No, he thought they counted.
Like, that makes no sense.
What's funny is, like, one of them made it back before he did. So, like, it bounced by him as he was running down the hallway. Like, how do you not put this together? It was just...
It's so good.
It was just, so, like, you couldn't script it better. Right? Like, if you and I were writing a screenplay, and then we're like... And then the cocky kid thinks he's won, but because he wasn't paying attention, he lost. Like, people would be like, nah, that's not believable enough.
Yeah. No, totally. It was crazy. It was super crazy. So yeah, he ends up, like, the way that it all set up to just how, like, TJ at the very end of it where everyone's done and he's like, all right. And the way that he worded it was so perfect, just in the sense of...
Because you know what? Here's the thing. People always talk about how TJ hates quitters, but he also hates poor sports. And he hates arrogance, right?
Yeah.
He hates quitting the most.
Yeah.
Like in the rankings. It's definitely quitting is his least favorite thing. Then I'd say it's poor sports, and then it's arrogance. Like, he can abide by a little bit of cockiness, like he does, I think, like Johnny Bananas.
I got you.
But I don't think he likes Bear. Like, I can't imagine he would like Bear's antics. Because he's standing there, too, watching it, right?
For sure. And he's loud because, you know he's just loud that even if you weren't standing directly beside him, you're hearing what the hell is going on. But one thing I find super interesting, too, because, I mean, this turns out to be very, very much a karma episode.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And one thing I got to give Wes a lot of credit for, at least from what they showed, he took that in stride.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the fact that he came back with 6 and he knew he was going to hear it from Bear, and Bear was just ripping into him so hard. And at least from what we saw, he took it in stride. Like, he didn't, like, get too mad. He just sort of kind of dapped him up and took it and listened. It was just like, okay, what the hell? And that moment, the look on Bear's face when TJ explains that you had to put the balls, like the balls only counted if you put them in the actual, proper area.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And to Wes's credit, they didn't go ham in terms of making fun of him for losing either, did they?
Not that we saw.
Again,
but it was also great to see later how despondent, like, in the house, how despondent Bear was. Like, he was so deflated.
He should be, though. After those antics, after, like, all those weeks of talking shit, after the fact as well that, I guess we'll talk about, I don't know why I was saving it as if it's a spoiler. Everyone who's listening to this has clearly watched the episode. But especially as it's revealed that it's a male elimination, right? So it's definitely possible. You don't win, you could be going in, right? There's so much of a reason for you to be Bear and to be so rattled after you think you won, meaning you're completely safe, to now, oh shit, I could be going home?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, for sure you'd be rattled. For sure. And also, kind of pointing out something that Turbo touched on, that yelling, that bravado, a lot of times that is masking, insecurity, right? And so that might have been the first sign that we actually saw the real Bear. Because he was kind of shook at that point.
I think he was beyond shook.
He wasn't in control talking trash, right?
Yeah, I think he was beyond shook. Like, I think he really had a hard time with it.
Yeah.
And what I love, like,
Nope.
I don't want to make fun of Georgia because, like I said at the top of the episode, I think she's a very nice person. But just the fact that she's trying to console him when it's 100% his fault. There is no one to blame. Like, everyone else understood the rules.
But this is where I go back to Georgia is playing us all. Because she's just trying to not hitch her wagon to Bear, but in the sense of, like, play up this Bear storyline. Don't worry, I'm here for you. Like, she's setting him up for his cheesy lines, like when she's telling him, anything you need tonight. I'll make sure you have the best night. I'll do anything to make it feel better for you, right? Like, she's just blatantly setting him up. Like, this is where I think Georgia is outsmarting us all. If we just think that she's playing like, you know, like if we just think that she's a dumb blonde, I think like she's playing it up for the camera.
I think you're probably right. I haven't seen...
That can't be real.
I haven't seen her on Love Island, but that's probably...
That sentence alone was so good.
Thank you.
Sorry. That sentence taken out of context. I mean, I don't really know the real her. I haven't seen her on Love Island.
Yeah, because I assume that she was her more authentic, genuine self on Love Island.
Who is it, right?
Because, I mean, when you're on Love Island, you're not competing to win. You're competing to find love. And, like, that's exactly. A different level. You don't play games at love.
It's true. It's true. Matters of the heart are serious.
So, Pauly, Theo, and Turbo are your winners. And it's a men's elimination week, so they can only nominate men, of which there's only 4 choices.
Dun, dun, dun. And, I mean, it made for the easiest nomination ceremony of the season. Maybe even of all time. No? Yeah. They walked in, they picked up the 3 names, and essentially Kyle, Wes, and Hunter, bing, bang, boom, are nominated. And you end up in this nomination ceremony. And Theo, I was going to ask you your take on Theo so far, because I can't believe I'm saying this, but I was really firmly on Hunter's side in all this, because I was just kind of, you know, you remember the Pedro Martinez interview where he's like, who is Kareem Garcia? Yeah. Remember that? That was my kind of take with Theo in this, because Theo is kind of feeling himself a little too much here, and I was really on Hunter's side until he made his dumbass line. But just in terms of Theo trying to like take charge and be in charge of stuff, and it's like, nah, bro, you're brand new. Like, you be quiet.
And also, like, Theo created a fight for no reason. Like, Hunter starts to speak, and then Theo's like, no, I'm going to ask the questions here. Dude, just let him speak. Right?
Exactly. And if you know Hunter well enough, you know that just let him speak, and he'll say something dumb like death, taxes, and I'm not going to tell you the other people should be put in over.
Yeah.
It's just like, what? Like, does he understand what that initials, like what that statement means? Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just a weird setup to just basically say, I'm not going to trash the other people.
Yeah, and it's at a point, I mean, there's a lot to parse out here. It's, for Theo, just, like, let Hunter say his dumb thing. Like, it doesn't matter. And that's one of the things about some of the younger people on this show. And frankly, I might take heat for this, but some of the younger fans too. Like, I've been thinking a lot this season about how people are like, people being the fans are taking sides in the like Cara, Pauly, Kyle stuff, or like they have really strong opinions. It doesn't matter at all, right? Like,
yeah. You're right, but you know what? We've grown up in a different era of the challenge, right? We've been watching for so long where our only relationship with these people were on the show. Whereas now, in this Kardashian world, the challenge is almost a 365 sport, let's say, or, you know, entity, because there's people who follow all of these characters year round. Yeah. So they have a stronger bond or a stronger hate or stronger dislike for people because you're interacting with them and know so much about them. Whereas for me, when we talk about it on this podcast all the time, right? Like, I don't really know anything about what's going on outside of the show because I'm not really following Pauly and who his girlfriend is on some other show and what happened with him and Cara and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different lane. Yeah. So I kind of understand that. Like, I understand the difference of it. And it's no judgment because, hey, like, I'm going to bring it back to the NBA. I'm so much more into the NBA and so many of the different players now because I see the other side of them. Like, I love Russell Westbrook so much more because the insight that you get into his family life, or him just driving around in his car singing Taylor Swift or whatever, right? Like, he's just such a nicer dude. Like, so much more about him because of the social media aspect, which is different than, if we go back to, why do people like Michael Jordan, or why do people like Barkley? Like, you didn't really know as much about them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense to me. But getting back to Theo and Hunter, on the other hand, as stupid as I thought it was for Theo to, like, make a point of cutting Hunter off and, like, being, like, really aggressive about it, it's also such a Hunter thing that, like, he thinks, like, he's such a black and white thinker that he thinks that, like, the important thing to do is to come in and declare that he's not going to, like, shit talk anyone. And like, and
he spent so much time coming up with that line.
Oh yeah, too. And like and psyching himself up. And like, it makes you wonder, like, what does he think other people are saying in those Judge Judy tribunal situations, right? Cuz like Wes didn't talk shit about anyone in his, right? Turbo didn't talk, like, there's no who's the other one? Kyle didn't talk shit about it. I guess he sort of was like, said, like, I'm not the biggest threat, but like, that's not necessarily shit talk. Like, that's an honest assessment.
Paulie agreed with him too, right?
So like, it's just that, like, it's so interesting that, like, Hunter is bringing sort of, I guess, his own issues to bear all the time, and like, this is how he operates. Like, this is why he always gets in his own way, because he always sort of misses the point, right? Whereas obviously the best approach was Wes, who came in, where he's like, when they said, like, why do you think you're in here, he's like, I don't know, why don't you tell me? Like, instantly turned it around, and not in an aggressive way, but it's just like, I don't know, I thought that we were all cool. And like, start to glean information from
also,
them.
too, it forces them to show their cards, right? Really well done.
And like, at the end of the day, really, at this stage, it doesn't matter why you're going in. Right? Like I said,
you're just trying to gather information for the future if you're West, so that's what made it so genius.
But there's only four choices, and there was 3 votes. Like, of those 3, mathematically speaking, 2 of them had to be nominated. Like, it's just how it goes.
Totally. So let's get to this, though, because it started off pretty harmlessly, no? Like, I mean, Georgia is kind of joking around with Hunter. They're kind of joking around about, like, wrestling or, like, play fighting or something. Like, it's completely harmless. Everyone's kind of laughing and chuckling, no? That's how it started anyways. And obviously they're partners. They had their little make-up, right? Their couples counseling. But Georgia kind of seemed like she was, I don't want to say she was poking Hunter, but she's definitely kind of like joking around and going at him, at least playful.
Winding him up, as the Brits would say.
Yes, exactly. I like that. She's like, I'll wrestle you one-on-one. And Hunter's like, that's not the problem you want. And he like, it's like, how is that your response? And then quickly it shifts to Turbo. Right? And now this is where Georgia, as you said, winding up Hunter is a perfect term, because it quickly shifts to Turbo. And you fully know that Hunter now is going to go mono. He's going to get on his macho side, his machismo, and it's going to turn into, oh, no, I'll fuck him up.
Yeah.
Right? And Turbo's not serious yet. Turbo's still kind of like laughing it off, right? Like, it's still not serious yet until your man's Theo comes from the other side of the room to start talking smack as well.
Yep.
I don't get it. Like, what's going on?
Well,
what's going on?
Given how they were dressed, I believe that there was a club scene that we missed. I think, as you would say, there's Remy in the system.
Ain't no telling.
I mean, first of all, it's worth noting Hunter was wearing his clubbing ball cap.
Well played,
And then
yes.
you've got Wes in the background wearing a Hawaiian shirt and sunglasses indoors at night.
Yeah. Georgia's got on a pretty, like, you know, going out type of top.
And
Theo's got his, like, very hipster ripped jeans, you know, with the lines on it, skinny jeans.
But then
on.
Turbo is in, like, basketball shorts. And I can't remember if he was wearing a shirt, but it looked like he was, like, about ready to go to bed. So what I think happened was that they had all come back from the club and had taken various steps to get ready for bed, or none at all. And, you know, the emotions were a little higher because, frankly, I think they were drunk to various degrees.
The other part that I enjoyed so much about it, though, was just looking at the other part I enjoyed so much was looking at the reactions of Davon in the background, because she's just, like, perfectly in the middle of them. And so it's just so funny to see her reaction throughout the whole argument as, like, Theo jumps in, as, you know, Hunter, who maybe in the beginning you kind of thought, or at least Turbo kind of thought he was joking, but then Hunter's like, no, I'll fuck you up. But it turned to Hunter, and I'm agreeing with Hunter here, he's saying, I'm not afraid of you. And whether that's true or not, the fact that he's saying, I'm not afraid of you, I can appreciate that, right? Like, he's just letting it be known. Like, hey, I know you're this tough guy, you give off this, like, dark, mysterious persona and all that, but, like, I'm not afraid of you. Whether or not you're able to fuck me up or not, I'm not afraid of you. And I appreciate that from Hunter. I can't believe how much I'm saying, like, I'm on Hunter's side here. I don't know what's going on
changed.
Here. I don't know what's up.
You have changed.
Something's going down. Something's going down.
I agree with you that Davon really added to the scene. But I have a few other side observations. First of all, a little behind the scenes for the listeners of You Killed It. Before we started recording, we were on the phone with each other, and you backed up to your PVR to rewatch the scene. And I can't tell you how much joy it brought my heart to hear you laughing hysterically at this scene.
Because the thing that was so funny to me was Theo, right? Because Theo comes in and he's just talking greasy, and, like, it made no sense to me. Like, it served no purpose. Like, of all people that wouldn't need help or need someone to, like, defend them, it's Turbo, right? So, like, I understand if Hunter's picking on someone else. I understand that if you then want to jump in because, oh, he's going too hard at Georgia or something like that. Cool. He's making fun of Davon. Cool. I understand that. But he's just joking around with Turbo, saying, like, because Georgia's like, Turbo would snap you in half. And he's like, nah, I'd fuck him up. And then for you to come all the way across the room to then again, because we've already seen the nomination where him and Hunter were going at it to begin with.
Yep.
Right? That happened in the nomination. So to now see it again where my guy comes all the way across the room and he's trying to interrupt Hunter, and Hunter's just like, who's even talking to you? Right? Like, I thought that made me laugh. That actually made me laugh, because the way that they cut it together, Turbo's kind of laughing. He's kind of laid back. He's taking it all in. I even love the line from Turbo where he's like, what does that smell? And he, like, inhales and he's like, fear. Right? Like, everything about that scene is so good.
Oh, there's more that I have to add. I loved...
Sorry.
No, it's good. I loved that Wes just let Hunter do it. Like, in the past, Wes would have pulled Hunter aside and been like, yo, man, pump the brakes. You're digging yourself a grave. Like, chill out here.
Well, Theo also tries to say, oh, what are you talking about? Wes told you to do this, didn't he? And Wes is just sitting there, like, not saying anything, as if to be like, nah, I didn't do anything.
And then,
cool.
Kyle is also loving it and says in Confessional, hey, everyone, look at Hunter. Let's get him out of here. Ignore me. Like, and I think
Yeah.
Wes is doing the same thing. Like, I think Wes and Hunter are allies, but I also think Wes knows, well, my life is a lot easier if people want Hunter gone. So
You talk about it all the time, right? The bigger target. You always need to have a bigger target ahead of you. But the other reason that oh, sorry. Do you have more observations?
no, that was the big one. Just that the other two had the presence of mind to be like, let's let this play out. Let's see how this goes.
So I have a question, and I don't know if this actually makes sense because I don't know if I'm willing to give Hunter this much credit. But I kind of thought that maybe if Hunter was just playing this up more to get under Turbo's skin, in the sense that we haven't really seen Turbo like this, riled up. Like, seriously? Like, was he trying to throw him off? Was he trying to get Turbo to fight him and eliminate himself? Because the way that Hunter was going at it in terms of, you're not afraid of me. Like, he just pushing the right buttons to finally get Turbo up and frustrating, right? By saying, hey, man, like, I'm not afraid of you. And Turbo saying, I'll fuck everybody up in here. And it was just funny that he pushed the exact right buttons. It made me think, wait a second, is Hunter trying to get, like, is he trying to bait him right now into fighting and then having Turbo eliminate himself? Or is Hunter, am I giving Hunter way too much credit? This is just what Hunter does. He gets in fights all the time. I think
this is just Hunter. I also think this is just Turbo.
Because yeah, and obviously we don't know Turbo, right? Like, what show is he on again?
He was on Turkish Survivor.
Oh, yes, Turkish Survivor, yeah. But, like, just the way that the thing that Turbo was getting so mad at was so weird. Like, he kept repeating, why do you keep saying you can fuck everybody up? You cannot fuck me up. Like, it's just such a dumb thing to get mad at to the point that he then, like, stood up and he's right in Hunter's face. And Hunter's like, I'm not afraid of you. And all Turbo was saying is, you cannot fuck me up. Like, that's what he's screaming at. Like, it's just such a dumb... do you understand what I mean? Like, it's such a dumb thing to be mad at, but if that's, like, the one thing that he found that he could, like, twist at Turbo and just keep twisting it, I don't know.
It's a dumb, drunken fight. And, like, in both cases,
it's fair.
It's about ego. You know what I mean? Like, it's just...
That part is definitely true.
It's just, like, if... I don't know if we ever talked. I'm a big fan of the Joe Rogan podcast, and obviously he's one of the world's leading experts on mixed martial arts. And he makes the point that if you're truly good at a combat sport, like a mixed martial artist, like a world-class UFC fighter, you don't get in situations like that. Because, like, if you're not scared, if you're not threatened, you don't have conversations like this. You know what you're capable of, and also you are an accurate judge of what other people are capable of. So like,
for sure. And it also,
if you're comfortable in yourself, if you're confident in your own, like, fighting prowess, you just say, okay, you think, then let's fight. You know, right? Then you're like, okay, like, you don't have to talk about it. You'll be like, oh, you think you're better than me? Well, then let's clear out some space. What are the rules? Who can be a judge? You know, like, you just get down to business.
But that's what threw me off, right? Like, there had to be how many security guards and producers holding Turbo back, and I couldn't believe that he got that unhinged, because he just seemed like such a stone cold assassin, right? Like, how have we been describing Turbo this whole year, right? Calm and cool and just like an assassin sniper type, right? And, like, to see him that thrown off by drunken Hunter was so weird to me. Like, it was odd. And, you know, I mean, what's the as you were just describing Joe Rogan, it's kind of like, you know, what's our favorite line? Real bad boys move in silence and violence. Like, it was just one of those things where it was like, oh, is Turbo a studio gangster? Is that what's happening here?
I don't
right?
I
don't
don't
know.
think he's so much a studio gangster as that he puts, in my mind, an overemphasis on respect. Right? Like,
okay, I like that. I see what you did.
Because, like, his expectations of how he's going to be treated in that house are not realistic. In all seriousness, if you go on Big Brother or Survivor or obviously The Challenge or any of these like competition political games, you have to expect that someone's going to be dishonest to you, and you have to expect that someone's going to disrespect you.
That's fair. And I am bringing like the whole, shouts to Big, obviously. The Brooklyn Nets are in my head. That's what's in my head. But the reason why that popped up, I know I'm applying like real world situations, not Real World the show, but real life situations to reality shows.
So is Turbo, and that's the problem, right? Like he's thinking,
I see.
He's thinking like, oh, I would my honor, my respect is very important to me, and I will not have it besmirched. Well, if you didn't want it besmirched, don't go on the challenge.
Fair. You make good points.
Well, thank you. I try.
I mean, imagine if I was like,
you are an idiot. I do have to say, Turbo has another classic line. I don't want to live like a chicken. I want to die like a lion. Okay. My man Turbo, cool. Why are you always speaking in terms of life and death? Like, have you noticed that he always goes to like, I will die for this, and you're like, you're carrying a ball down a hurricane. Like,
yeah, it's not that serious, my man. It's not that serious. Also, too, like the fact that he was still mad the next morning. I was like, yo,
if Hunter touches my arm, I will break his arm. Really? Because he drunkenly talked some shit. And also, what's the expectation there? Is Hunter supposed to say, like when George is saying like, I can beat you in a fight? Obviously he's got to say, no, I would destroy you because you're like 110 pounds. But is he supposed to be like, here is my accurate belief on how I would fare in a wrestling competition. I think that I would go like 3 rounds out of 5 against Theo. But I think Turbo has like, is he supposed to gas up Turbo in this situation? And be like, no, Turbo would kick my ass.
I think Turbo would take me out.
No, in this physical competition context that we're in, I'm going to admit to myself and to everyone present my own physical limitations compared to Turbo. Like, what? Come on, Turbo.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah,
Killing Floor. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. Turbo votes for Kyle, which was surprising since he was the one who nominated Hunter and wants to break Hunter's arm. Maybe he's mad because he knows that if he nominated Hunter voted for Hunter, that he wouldn't have the opportunity to break Hunter's arm himself. I don't know what the thinking is.
Yes. I think that kind of makes sense.
And then Theo votes for Wes. We didn't even get into how Theo thinks Wes is too old, which...
Oh, sorry. The other thing, though, Turbo obviously just voting for Kyle as well because, as mentioned earlier in the episode, him and Paulie are now BFFs. Yeah. Right? So that's probably why the Kyle vote, which, if not for that scene, we totally would have been like, wait, this makes no sense. Yeah. But I think with that scene, we kind of get the BFF nature of Paulie and Turbo's relationship.
Yes. And then Paulie, after a long speech, almost votes for Wes, but goes for Kyle. I think in part because Kara raised her eyebrows at Paulie to be like, yo, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's very weird. Those two are very weird.
I hate the dynamic. Yeah,
here we are.
So then, I love this competition. It's a dumb competition, but they're both so dumb that it works.
Totally. And I also think, too, that, to be honest, whoever got voted in was going to pick Bear.
Oh,
right?
yeah, 100%. here's, I mean, okay, let's talk about what happened in the competition, and then I'm going to go on a rant here. So buckle up.
Okay.
You've been warned.
I'm in.
So it's Kyle gets put in. He calls out Bear. And what happens is TJ gives them a trivia question that's multiple choice. They then have balls that drop from the, I guess, ceiling, from a crane, because they're outdoors. On the balls, the answers are written. So you have to find the ball with the answer on it, and then carry it and dunk it in your basket.
Mm-hmm.
Bear and Kyle...
A great twist.
Great
I like
twist.
This.
Bear and Kyle are so dumb that they don't know the answers to any of the trivia. But I would speculate that I don't think it actually makes that much a difference if you know the answer or not, right? Because, like, I mean,
True.
maybe if you're lucky, the ball with the correct answer bounces towards you and you know it, and so you grab it and you have, like, a head start on your opponent. But ultimately, this is a physical competition, I think.
Agreed. I would agree with that.
And Kyle
I would agree
is
with that.
just much bigger than Bear. He's taller, he's stronger, and I don't want to say he manhandles Bear, but Bear does not win any of these physical confrontations.
Oh, he lost all the physical battles in the corner. Sorry, the NHL playoffs started last night, so pucks in deep.
And we're Canadian. It's all we talk about. It's all we think about.
He lost all the puck battles, all the physical battles in the corner. Bear lost all of those.
He didn't play heavy.
Not enough truculence.
Not enough truculence. So that's it. Bear's gone. And one of my favorite lines of the episode, not my line of the episode, but one of the lines of the episode, is Georgia is losing it crying. And Bear just leaves. Like, he doesn't say goodbye to her. And Wes, in confessional, says, Georgia is crying on the killing floor, and Bear's already running off to call his cousin.
It's so true, though. It's so true. And, I mean, Georgia was crying, like, hard. And I don't know, like, is she that good of an actress? Like, could she just produce tears like that? Like,
I will let you know.
That's the part where I'm like, wait.
She studied acting. Like, she's a professionally trained actress.
So hold on here. I did not know
I only
that.
looked it up when we were talking about her earlier. I did a Google search.
Okay. See, it all makes sense now. The performance art from Georgia makes total sense now.
Yep.
No?
Perhaps
I like it.
Perhaps most importantly, in addition to winning and remaining in the game, Kyle won a Burger King dinner, and he decided to take Maddie, Nani, and Davon out for burgers, which is the right call.
This was what a way for Bear to go out, though, right? Like, this was a weak-ass, like, lame way for Bear to go out. And you mentioned rookie seasons. Yes, Bear was definitely one of the standout characters of this season, if not the standout character this season. But for him to go out like this, not only throwing away the actual elimination, but, sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, and I'm going to flip this a little. I'm going to flip this a little for you. Sorry. Did you even get to your tangent
yet? No, but
I'm
going to be able to build off of yours. So,
because what I was going to say is, I'm not doing a most valuable player who killed it. I'm saying who didn't kill it in this episode. When it's that terrible of a performance that you put on, that Bear did in this episode, where you throw away the elimination by being so horrible, but, you know, not understanding the rules, not understanding the fact that, of course, if the ball goes flying past your head, it doesn't count in terms of your total overall number. But then on top of that, to talk that much shit, to have that much swagger, it's like the definition of too much sauce, if too much sauce meant something that was negative. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just way too much. And to have all that happen, so you talk all that shit, you go from winning and guaranteeing your safety for another week to now leaving yourself vulnerable and pretty much guaranteeing your place in the elimination round. And then to just not show up in the elimination at all and just get dummied like that. Both he and Kyle, as you mentioned, didn't know the answers to any of the trivia questions. So it came down to a physical challenge, and he just got dummied, like straight deboed in this competition. Like, to go out like that, Bear, oof, that's weak. That is lame AF, as the kids would say.
So, here's my thing. There are a lot of people who defend Bear on the social media. And they will talk about how Bear is a great competitor. Bear is this. Bear is that. But here's the thing. You and I have never bought in on Bear.
No, he was just like entertainment.
He was entertainment, but I never thought he was a good competitor. I always thought that he, A, got lucky, B, that Davon would win the competition.
That is correct.
And I wish people listened to us, because at the end of the day, what do you and I do for a living? Like, how do we make our money? We judge athletes. Like, if you want to really get down to the brass tacks, you and I, for a living, look at and judge how athletic people are. We can tell if someone has that Mickey Mantle gene.
Well, that one play where, and I know calling it a play sounds funny, but that one where Bear has a clear path to the basket and Kyle like comes out of nowhere, and they even cut it as if it was a sports highlight pack because Kyle dives and like Mutombo blocks Bear. I was just like, yeah, this is over. He has no shot. But your point about Davon is totally right, because Davon was the one that took out Shailene. Davon was the one that took out Jenna.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're totally right here. Davon did do a lot of work to keep Bear safe in eliminations. While Bear did so much work to put them in to eliminations.
Exactly. Like, he never, and like, yeah, he's entertaining. I think he's a dick. I think he's sexist. I think he might be a little bit racist. But like, he was never good in competition. And this idea that he was, we can say, okay, he had the physical attributes to get 8 balls down the hallway in this episode, but he didn't have like the mental sharpness to actually understand the rules, or to have at least observed what other people had done.
So to follow that up, though, right? To not only follow the rules, but, you got to finish your breakfast, right? And that is a line, if you go back, if you know me well enough, my guy is Jay-Z, a.k.a. Sean Carter. He has a line in one of his songs, is it PSA, where he says, my homie Strick told me, dude, finish your breakfast, right? And it's a great line just in terms of, hey, you can do all the work, but you got to see it all the way through. But that line actually comes from, there's actually meaning, yes, Jay-Z is a master of the double entendre, but that line actually comes from, as well, one of his friends whose last name is Strickland, Strick, and it was from when they had their team in Rucker Park, which is a famous New York City, inner city basketball court, right? Outdoor court. So all these different actors or rappers and stuff would have their own teams, and Strick was one of the legendary guys down there at the courts, and he would always yell at the dudes, finish your breakfast, in terms of finish off the layup, do all the work to get to the basket. You think of New York City ballers dribbling, doing all this work, but then to miss the basket makes no sense, right? Just like Bear. You did all the work to get all the way down there, but you didn't finish your breakfast. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Tangent
no, it's
again.
Fine. So you're saying, well, let me ask, what is your line of the episode?
My line of the episode actually is, I said it earlier, but it's Kyle. Just because the way that he delivered it was so perfect when they're explaining what the first challenge was, and Kyle's like, wait a second, why do these fans even exist? What is the purpose of these fans, and where did TJ get it from? I thought that was really funny, because I always love the acknowledgement of yeah, it was TJ that put this together. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Meanwhile, obviously TJ just shows up to like read the rules. But I always love that aspect of how this is played out.
I thought Kyle was on a roll. I already mentioned how he was talking about everyone should be paying attention to Hunter. But something that just made me die laughing was he was talking about how important it was to prove yourself in individual competitions. And he goes, a lot of people have been hiding behind their 6'1" girl partners. And then he just sort of stared in the camera.
Yes.
He is right.
Also, too, sorry, do you know what else we should bring up? During that fight, like, after the original fight and now it's just broken up and they're trying to separate Hunter and, what's his name,
Yep.
Turbo. And then you see Kyle in his robe, because Kyle wasn't there originally in the room. But you see him in the robe, and, like, he's probably, like, doing some business of his own with Maddie, maybe. I don't know who was in the room with them, but the way that he popped up in that like Hugh Hef robe, I was just kind of like, this guy's hilarious.
I know that he has his issues, but he does entertain me. I will say that.
Agreed.
So are you going to pick an MVP, or are you turning into an LVP for Bear?
Turn it into an LVP for Bear, because that was just such a despicable, terrible, some might even say karma-filled performance from Bear. After you talk that much shit, it was your own demise.
Yep.
Yeah. Bear, it was nice knowing you, but, you know.
Well,
peace.
I'm going with Kyle as my MVP because he actually did really well in the Hurricane Tunnel, was it Fandemonium? He did actually quite well. And
True.
I thought that, he's playing the political game well, as best he can. He finally eliminated Bear and, like, looked dominant, too. Like, if I were watching that, like, if I was one of the other male competitors, I would be a little impressed. I'd be like, okay, Kyle's not a pushover necessarily in a physical competition. And
do you know what I'm impressed by? How's Wes not ever in the elimination?
Well, he eliminated Zach, right?
Yeah, but that was like, that was super early. Yes, you're correct. But like, I'm talking like down the line here where the numbers were still on the other side and Wes was so much the ringleader. The politic game, man, to like maintain some level with Paulie.
Yep.
Right? To maintain some level, like is with Hunter and Kyle, like to maintain on both sides with Kyle and Paulie. Pretty smart.
Well, and
Pretty
it's
smart.
funny because, like, as far as I can tell, literally everyone recognizes that Wes is a threat. Like, aside from Hunter, there's no one who says, oh, we got to keep Wes around. In fact, everyone's saying Wes has got to go. But he keeps holding on. And you know what? I bet next episode he comes back and he wins a competition. Like, I bet he's back in the tribunal. Because you know what?
Yeah, super interesting.
Even though he struggled, he still got 6 balls down. Right? Like, he wasn't a disaster. He got as many down as Bear, as an example. True. I'm sure that we have not heard the last from Wes. It is notable, however, that the next time that there's a men's elimination, which will be presumably 2 weeks from now, that whoever wins, like, we have to see how the competition pans out. Like, if a woman makes the tribunal, but if it's 3 men that go into the tribunal 2 weeks from now, the other 3 men automatically are going in, right? Like, we're down to 6 guys.
Yeah.
And the same's about to happen with the women, too.
Super interesting numbers. Super interesting numbers. But I feel like to wrap up, because what we talked about in terms of Bear, we'll probably get a lot of feedback because, as we mentioned before, there are a lot of Bear followers and supporters online. But I'll say this much, and I'll ask you the question, though. Do you want to see Bear again on the challenge?
I think so, but I think I would not want him every season, and I'm Yeah,
Really? Okay.
I'm increasingly of the view that like I don't want to see any of these people season after season. Like
okay.
But like Bear especially, I think is a small doses kind of guy. Like if we string together like 3 consecutive seasons with Bear, I would get real old of it, like real tired of his shit in a hurry. But if we had Bear like 3 seasons from now and like we sort of see how he evolves, it'd be interesting. You know what I mean? It's like seeing your cousins at holidays.
Sorry, that made me think of, there was this clip that was going around online. I think it was in maybe the Facebook challenge group, and it was of some reality show. I have no idea what it is, but basically you're meeting someone on a blind date, and Bear shows up for the blind date. The woman shows up, she sits down, Bear right away sees her, gets up, walks away, and says, "Oh my God, I need to get out of here. I don't like her." And then writes a note, gives it to the waiter to give to the woman, and then just leaves. That just made me think of you saying, we'll see how Bear matures over the next 3 years. Because I'm like, I don't know if that's possible. I think he's just a tool. But the reason I do want to see him on the challenge, John, is because what do we love more than the first couple episodes of the challenge when everyone's in the house, everyone's happy to be there, everyone's partying, everyone's getting drunk? I feel like Bear could provide some entertainment for those first few episodes, especially if you bring back like the crew of Hunter and Corey and even Bananas, right? Like he's just that much of a personality that he would add some entertainment to the first couple episodes to any season. And he wouldn't be around for long enough to be that annoying either. Right? Like he'd just be there. First 2 episodes, boom, some partying, some jokes, ha ha ha, Bear gets eliminated.
I will say,
I'm down for that.
I am excited to see how Bear does at the reunion.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like that is
very
that, and the reunion's in London this time out, eh?
It is, yes. I saw that a long time ago, and I never brought it up on the podcast because I thought it was going to be a spoiler in terms of who ends up winning. Because at the time, I saw that very early on. But at the time, it was like right when the domination of, you know, the UK alliance was going on. So I thought that it was going to tell us that they were going to steamroll through the entire thing. And it was going to be like all UK people at the very end, which isn't the case now. But at the time, that's what I thought was going to happen. And I thought that's why they were having it over there.
Well,
but hey,
you know what? Notably, the UK alliance is essentially dead, right? Like it's down to Theo and Georgia.
Yeah. Yep. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Like that is all she wrote. Speaking of feedback, when people tear us down for tearing down your man Bear, where can the people tear you down on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. And apologies ahead of time because it's the NBA playoffs, people. So if you are not down with the NBA playoffs, I mean, hey, for the next few months, the next 2 months, all NBA all the time. And the Raptors are making the NBA Finals.
Ooh,
so
you heard it here first.
Just saying.
And Sheldon,
saying.
Never apologize for who you are.
That's fair. That's fair.
To thine own self be true.
What about you, John? Where can the people find you, man?
They can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. Still doing lots of golf, but believe it or not, Sheldon, I am doing a story that is coming out tomorrow. That is Friday, April 12th. That involves Big Brother.
Oh. Okay.
It also involves classical painting and artwork. and the NFL.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wow. Okay. I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, I think you should. I think you should look forward to it.
I am in. I am in.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed